Hello and welcome to Decoding the New Economy. Today I'm joined by Alex Bard of Salesforce.com, and we're going to talk about customer service, the journey of creating a startup and then selling it into a bigger organisation, and how the Internet of Machines is changing customer service. Thank you very much for joining us, Alex.
Yeah, great. Thank you for having me.
So first, to kick off, your role at Salesforce.
So I'm responsible for our service platform. I'm the Senior Vice President and General Manager of the Service Cloud business.
Right. Now, you've got quite a bit of background in this, and you set up your own startup, another startup, and you sold that into Salesforce. What was that journey like?
So I've been, I call myself a career entrepreneur. I've been in the space, in the customer service and support software space since the mid-90s. So I have a huge passion for it. And the most recent company was a company called Assistly that we co-founded in 2009. The real vision behind Assistly was that social media was going to impact how companies engage with their customers. And when we went out to raise money for the business, I remember the first slide had a picture of Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon. And I had a big quote, and this is a quote that now is over 15 years old, but I think has never been truer than it is today. And that quote was, if you make somebody unhappy in the physical world, they'll tell 6 friends. If you make them unhappy on the internet, they'll tell 6,000. And so I really believed that at that time, social media was going to completely transform the dynamic between companies and their customers. And so we built Assistly, which enabled SMBs particularly to manage their customers across a variety of channels, including social media. And we launched the company, and we had tremendous success out of the gate with some of the, I'd say, kind of progressive startups, because we built the business in San Francisco. And so early on, companies like Pandora and Spotify and Yelp all came onto the platform because I think they recognized the power and the vision of social media. Yeah. And so we grew the business for a few years, and Salesforce actually became an investor in the company because we were very much aligned in our vision. And at one point, Mark and I sat down and chatted about where I thought the future was headed in terms of customer service, and got to better understand where Salesforce was headed. And it made sense to kind of bring the two together and really augment what Salesforce already had, which was an amazing platform for support that gave you the capability to customize your business process, but they also wanted to have a product that was very specifically a prescriptive product targeted at smaller businesses to really enable us to deliver a support solution to companies of all sizes. And so we were acquired in 2011. Now, right. So I've been here for about 3 years.
Now, with the social business, it's how do you find that evolving now? So you're clearly correct about your call on that. Where do you see it going now?
So it's incredible, right? The more companies that I talk to globally, the more I see that companies view social as this amorphous thing, right? Like, what exactly does it mean, and do we engage and listen, and how do we think about it? And so I actually think there are multiple layers of what social means. I think that, first of all, social is an incredible opportunity for companies to harvest this amazing data that customers are sharing about themselves publicly. Yeah. I mean, it's just incredible. When you think about big data, why not capture that data to help inform the conversation that you can have with a customer? So I think there's a massive learning opportunity there. Right. I think there's a great opportunity to engage, because social media is really the first time ever that the customer has control of the how and when. But if you think about the evolution of service, companies always control the how, whether it was phone and chat and email and self-service, and they control the when, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Social media is the first time that the customer actually, at any time, at their discretion, can go and have a public conversation with or about a company. And so that dynamic is forcing change, and I think companies need to first listen to understand, because there are great opportunities to learn from why was there a breakdown in terms of the experience the customer had with the company, then engage. And it's becoming more important than ever to engage, because there was a recent survey that said that 42% of the customers who go on social media and mention a brand expect a response within an hour. Right? And so the risk of not participating, I would argue, is actually higher than the risk of participating. So it's about how do you engage. And then the last part of it is an opportunity to then market. How do you reach out to new customers? How do you identify them by this amazing data that they're sharing, and be able to have a contextual, one-to-one personalized conversation? So I think social media is a series of things. I think it's incredibly important to businesses of all shapes and sizes and across a variety of industries. I'll give you a really great example. I was with the CIO of New South Wales yesterday. We were chatting how they were thinking about it. And so one of the groups or departments is the fire department. Right. And so how do you think about being able to deliver a really important, a hugely important service? And so one of the ways that they think about that is they know seasonally where fires are more likely to break out. And so rather than having fire trucks sitting inside of the fire station, you want to move the fire trucks closer to areas where a potential fire may occur. But what's a much greater indicator is the predictive capability or listening to social media, because instantly when a fire goes off, what they found is people go to social media and report it. Right? And so their ability to be able to take that in and then action something as critical as a fire service is absolutely incredible. And so when you have an agency like New South Wales and the government looking at these incredible new opportunities for social, I would argue any business across any industry can have that same kind of powerful opportunity.
Yeah, and that's an interesting segue there into the Internet of Machines, because you've got those sensors on the fire trucks and so on. How do you see that changing customer service?
I think the Internet of Things is going to be completely transformational. There are a series of surveys, or studies I should say, that forecast anywhere between 25 to 75 billion connected things by 2020,
Yes.
which will be more than the whole of PCs plus tablets plus mobile phones combined. And all these things are going to generate an incredible amount of data and give you the opportunity to action that data. And let me give you a few examples of conversations that I've been having, again, with some local companies. Take Aussie Post, right? A postal service. We had an Imagineered conversation where we're talking about how do drones impact future delivery. 3D printing, how does that impact future delivery? The idea of customer to customer, potentially for local delivery. There was a recent article that came out that Rolls-Royce is planning on building these massive barges that ship about 90% of the world's goods to be powered by drones. Because they can get massive efficiencies there. So just think about this Internet of Things, this connected Internet of Things, and the opportunities through the data that will present to companies, and also the service experiences that will then come out of that. We call this idea the Internet of Customers, because behind everything, behind every app is a customer.
Sure.
And so how do you provide a really great service experience when you know much more about the customer, when you know much more about their usage, when you know much more about their product, and can you actually ultimately deliver an experience that didn't result in a service issue, right? You were able to solve the problem before it occurred because you had that level of intelligence. And so I think that the Internet of Things is going to be completely transformative for businesses and for how people and companies deliver service.
Right. Now, going back a step to being a startup that's taken over, you mentioned your discussions with Mark Benioff prior to being acquired. How do you find it as an entrepreneur coming into a larger organisation? Because usually entrepreneurs struggle in that environment.
So I think Mark has done an incredible job of bringing in companies. You've seen a lot of the acquisitions that we've done, and then really investing in the entrepreneurs and the companies to help them grow. A lot of the leaders in key positions inside of the company are actually entrepreneurs that were acquired in. And then Mark and the company rose them to a position to be able to have impact at even a greater scale, which is actually what's happened with me. And I think it really comes down to the culture of the company. We've been rated the world's most innovative company 3 years in a row by Forbes. That comes from the top and makes its way down to every employee inside of the company. We have a process where we're very clear and very transparent about the vision of the company, the goals of the company, and how every employee aligns to their particular goal. And I think when you've got that kind of transparency, when you foster and reward innovation, when you strive to do better, I think all of those characteristics are characteristics that entrepreneurs have. That's our passion. That's what we want. We want an impact at scale. We don't want to settle for the status quo.
So your advice for businesses looking ahead in the world of customer service, Internet of Things, customer relationship management, where do you see this all going?
Yeah, I've been in the industry for 20 years and I've never been as excited about it as I am now. And I think the real transformational thing that's happening, that these revolutions, the social revolution, the mobile revolution, the connected revolution, what they're really driving is this idea that customer service is no longer a department. Customer service is now a philosophy. It's a philosophy that has to permeate the entire organization, and everybody in the company has a role in support. It's not just about a call center or a contact center or even an engagement center, which is what these things are being called today. Because I don't really like the word center, because I really fundamentally believe that everybody in that company has to interact with customers, has to engage, and has to have the information, no matter where they are, about that customer to provide the context to have a really great conversation and ultimately deliver an amazing experience. And I think that's the future of service, this idea of whole company support, being able to engage with customers on their terms, whether it's through social, whether it's face-to-face, whether it's through self-service. I believe that service has to be embedded everywhere. It has to be in every app, it has to be in every device, it has to be in every experience. because ultimately you want to deliver a service experience with the least amount of friction and customer effort. We're hearing a lot about customer effort. And then in the Internet of Things, kind of if I start to think more visionary, if you remember the movie Minority Report with Tom Cruise, where he's moving his hands around, but what they were doing in that movie is solving crimes before they happened.
Yeah.
The exciting thing about the future of service in this Internet of Things is we can actually solve cases before they happen. Now, I'll give you an example. GE has their GE connected jet engine.
That's right. Yep.
And this jet engine is sending thousands of data points hourly to their suppliers, to their partners, to the repair people, to the airlines, so that they can diagnose what's happening with that engine and potentially solve an issue while the plane is on the ground, which is what you ultimately want. And they've got a new line of jet engines coming out. They're going to be recording data from every flight to help them make those engines more efficient and smarter. And they're going to capture more data in a year than in their entire 96-year history prior.
Right.
Now, with that data, they'll be able to analyze and do things on behalf of that product or service that'll reduce the number of issues, because the best service experience of all is one that never has to happen.
Absolutely, yeah. Now that's an interesting view as well, because that's going to change a lot of big companies' views on the world. That strikes me, it's knocking down a lot of bureaucracies within organisations. So how do you see social media within organisations, things like Chatter and so on?
So, that's the other aspect of social media, which is really collaboration. I think I couldn't do my day-to-day job without Chatter.
Yeah.
And the power of Chatter is that it's on our mobile devices. It's wherever we are, and the world is becoming more mobile in that way, right? Last year, I think, was the first year ever, according to Gartner, that smartphones outsold traditional phones globally.
Right. Yep.
And this year, it's forecasted that in Q2, more of the internet access will be accessed through mobile devices and through traditional PCs.
Yeah.
And so the power of Chatter is it enables you, no matter where you are, to be able to collaborate with other people inside of the organization. And to me, the real interesting breakthroughs, the innovation occurs when people collaborate together.
Right.
And that's the power of Chatter, and that's the power of social, is enabling people inside of a company to collaborate with one another, but also then to collaborate with their partners, to collaborate with their customers, to really drive new innovation. So that to me is hugely exciting.
Yeah. So if you were giving advice to smart young entrepreneurs coming up at the moment, where would you say that they should be concentrating their efforts?
I think that there are lots of opportunities to disrupt existing industries and markets. And I would say you look at the outside-in perspective, starting with the customer. What is the customer experience? Because in this world, the customer is getting more and more powerful in terms of their impact to the business and in terms of defining the relationship. So start with the customer, identify industries where some of these evolutions haven't occurred yet, and then ultimately think about how can you build something that creates less friction, that creates a better experience for the customer and the company. And I think there are lots of opportunities to do that, and I kind of talked about this earlier. It's about innovation. So you have to be generally disagreeable, and you have to have a sense of urgency.
Yeah. Well, Alex, thank you very much for your time today. Thanks for not being generally disagreeable. And thank you very much for joining Decoding the New Economy.